All right. So just to highlight a few.
Yes, please.
First, look, this one, even if I don't talk about anything else, and it's just this, and you watching this video, you are able to wrap your fingers. Now that's what we say, all right? You're able to wrap your fingers around this, you're good to go, and that's communication. Communication. Look, you cannot belabor the point about how critical it is that in this day and age of cross-country, cross-generation, cross-corporation engagement, your communication skills is absolutely important, and it will be your master key to enter the next level of work that you want to get to. All right. And when I'm talking about communication, I'm not talking just about the fact that you can speak or you can interact with people, but communication and communicating and making sense, communicating and being humble, communicating and being productive, communicating and being reasonable, communicating and being engaging. There's a difference between just talking and being heard, and talking and being engaged with your audience. It's so important. So you cannot afford but to develop and sharpen your communication skills. And there are three key elements of this communication that I'm talking about. The first one is your ability to listen. Please, before you, excuse my language, before you open your mouth, take a second. Listen to your environment. Know what's going on. Know who is around. Know what the subject matter of conversation or discussion is, and know what is the goal of that conversation before you say anything. And please, if you know you don't have anything to say, don't talk, just shut up. It pays to listen than to talk. Listening is a virtue, it's an important skill. Second, your language skills. Your language skills, vocabulary, very important. And then how to express yourself in a manner that makes sense and adds to the conversation. So your language skills, your diction, and being mindful of the social setting within which you are. Be very mindful. Your verbal and non-verbal cues. When we are in a group of three and we are interacting, you don't shout on top of your voice as if you're talking to people in the market. You need to know that you are dealing with people. You are speaking with a CEO, you are speaking with a director, you are speaking with I was in church recently and a pastor came and said, look, even the way you engage people when they come to church, for all you know, your Queen of Sheba has just visited your church. Yeah. And the person who is receiving the Queen of Sheba, one, is not dressed well. Secondly, is talking rubbish to the person. Your Queen of Sheba is gone with all the gifting. So your engagement skills in the communication, non-verbal and verbal cues, very important. Then third, your ability to pay particular attention to the details of the conversation. Please don't make that mistake. When I am talking to you, when you're engaging with a professional and we are talking about business development, don't bring in medical science. I have nothing to do with medical science. You're wasting my time. Don't waste my time. Stay focused. Very important. So your communication skills, very important. Get it, develop it, focus on it, sharpen it. Second thing, cognitive flexibility. Listen. You can no longer come to the workspace and say, well, as for me, I learned graphic designing and I know and I use how to use CorelDRAW, and CorelDRAW is the best graphic designing software, and all these other softwares that are coming, they are just waste of money. We can't take money and go and buy another software. Hello? You are out of the game. Cognitive flexibility. The fact that you learned graphic designing with CorelDRAW doesn't mean we have to stick to CorelDRAW. There are a lot more sharper softwares now. Open your mind, learn new things, be flexible in your engagement. And then you also need to know that your hard skill and your application of your hard skill by what's in your mind is not enough. You need to loosen up and say, what else is there that I can learn to improve or my hard skills so that I can apply different principles to the work I do. That's your cognitive ability. Cognitive flexibility. Open up your mind. Don't be fixated on one way of doing things. And for example, if you're an accountant, don't just say, well, by the accounting principles, it has to be 1 plus 1 and that's it. See, so if the answer is 2, is there another way we can arrive at 2 and not just 1 plus 1? It is possible that we can still come to 2 if we subtracted 20 from 22, we can arrive at 2. You need to be open-minded to be able to appreciate the different ways of doing things so that you can be relevant in that environment. Right? Yeah. Critical thinking. Critical thinking. You cannot come to class 6 and be thinking as a class 1 child. No.
Maybe before you speak about critical thinking, on communication, I believe, I don't know how we are going to link it to context. You made mention of the fact that when you are speaking, you shouldn't talk on top of your voice and also shout all of that. I don't know. I know people it's not all who be watching this video that will be Ghanaians. We'll have other foreigners watching. So I believe communication is also context, should be context appropriate. Could you please throw some more light on that aspect for us?
Okay. So number one, you need to appreciate that when you're communicating to a wide audience. Now, because of technology and how easy it is for content to cross borders, you need to be mindful of the fact that when you're communicating, somebody from outside your social setting may come into contact with your content, and they might want to engage with the content based on the introduction. But beyond the introduction, the rest of the content, is it relevant? Is it acceptable? Is the rest of the content reasonably informative that they can associate with? Are there certain uses of words or jargons or expressions that may be offensive beyond your social setting? So when you're developing content, you have to be mindful where you want to put that content and let that guide you, because if you're putting that content on the global space, then you know that you are not only going to be heard or seen by your local audience. People outside your vicinity would hear. That's why you can't use certain expressions. You can't also use certain gestures. And again, you need to know that when one person is offended by something you say or did in your communication or your engagement, and they see it outside your environment and they make one negative comment about it, you're dead on the global community via technology. You're good as dead. So you need to be extremely careful. Number one, be mindful of the platform that you're communicating on. Number two, be mindful of the audience around and those who can accidentally or deliberately come into contact with your content. Number three, you also need to be mindful of the objective of the content you're developing and what you're communicating. Are you communicating for educational purposes? Are you communicating for health? Are you communicating for development? And all of these, the objective would also guide the kind of language you bring into that communication and how you package and deliver that content. So being aware of the setting, the audience, the objective, and the social circumstances around the subject matter you are discussing would really help you. So for example, during the COVID crisis, we know that one of the fallouts of the COVID crisis is mental health challenges, all right? So people are really, really depressed. People are fighting all kinds of challenges. There are people who have lost like significant numbers in their families. So you don't just appear anywhere and you make a joke out of the COVID crisis, because you have no idea who is still struggling emotionally, and because you are not sensitive to other people's feelings, even though you don't know, you must be emotionally intelligent to know that the subject matter we are discussing can have certain sensitivity around it, and so you don't say certain things. Otherwise, you end up hurting people rather than helping. And that's why understanding the context and being mindful of the subject matter really, really critical as you're communicating with others.
That's really insightful, and thanks, Ish. I don't think this should come handy, and I really appreciate your sharing and the insights you're giving us today. And I know you're not done, but if you can add one or two more, then we can.
Okay, so